All right, thanks for tuning in to this December of 2014 horoscope. My name is Athen, and this is for the sidereal sign of Gemini. So this month we've got a lot of activity involving Pluto, which he's been transiting your 7th house. And one of the main reasons I say that is we've got Uranus squaring up to Pluto, while all the fast-moving planets, Venus, Mercury, and the Sun are all going over Pluto this month. So a lot of activity in that 7th house sector. And with Pluto in that 7th house, Pluto's been helping you guys release attachments to relationships, perhaps a lot of projections in terms of conscious projections or emotional projections onto relationships, how to release from those in order for you to see the immense beauty and the real depth of what a relationship actually is. Because what a relationship is can't be labeled, it can't be named, it can't be known in that sense. And so releasing any, projections onto it is going to create harmony. It's going to create it's creating beautiful relationships in your life that are more meaningful, more raw, more deep. And this has been going on for a very long time, but for the past couple of years, we've had this square between Uranus and Pluto. So there's been this transformational energy, there's perhaps tense energy just depending on your orientation on it. Hopefully over the past couple of years you've been a willing participant wanting to release those attachments, but in either case those attachments have been being released anyways. But I suggest this month being that willing participant, play the active role, make those changes in your life in terms of your relationships through releasing. That's essentially, it's as easy as it is when I say it, but it's harder than it sounds. But it's simple. It's releasing the attachments, and then through that, naturally, everything will unfold. And so for the past couple of years, there's been this tense aspect between that and Uranus, which is you being free, you being your true self, your authentic self. Perhaps it's now, now that we're coming up to the second to last hit with this, it's really understanding it a lot more. In December, I think there's going to be a sense of clarity and understanding what this actually means, what this actually is. And then the last hit is going to be in March, and then it's over. So between now and March, I really suggest taking that active role and really bringing in your freedom into the relationships. With a square, there needs to be a combining of energies. And perhaps it has to do with, you being your true self, being who you really are, but at the same time relating and becoming, bringing a mutual connection between you and others, in the sense that you can be yourself and it doesn't affect that. You'll see that there's no polarity, there's no square actually when you see them in that light, when you bring them together. There's no difference between you being who you really are. That's regardless of what's going on in the relationships. You can always be your true self no matter what. But showing it, and I think going through the motions of it and allowing that true self of yours to come out is going to help assist in the transformations in that 7th house area. Now Uranus has been in that 10th house, so this is playing a big role too, and it's involving your work, your career, and whatever you're doing in the public image, in the public eye, for service to humanity, to the system, to the world. And so with Uranus there's lots of changes that's been happening, and now there's some constructive changes that perhaps need to continue to be made in order to facilitate perhaps more relationships into your work, deeper connections there. But overall, they're really supporting each other in the sense that when you're making the transformations to the relationships, you're going to notice the tremendous amount of freedom that you're having in your career. And when you have a freedom in what you're doing in the public sector, you're going to notice it's helping your relationships as well. So there's a touch, there's an aspect, but it comes from consciously bringing those two elements together. So that's the major energy this month. And that's going to be strongest between the 10th and the 20th, but that's right in the middle. So I think for the whole month we're going to experience it. Now the first thing that happens this month is we've got Venus, Mercury, and the Sun all going into that 7th house, from the 6th into the 7th. So they were in the 6th last month. So last month there was a sort of strong emphasis on the daily routines, getting things taken care of, perhaps in your health or anything on the day-to-day level, perhaps with your work and your craft, developing that. But now things take on a much more relationship-oriented part of the chart, starting on the 5th when Venus goes into your 7th house. And then now there's more beauty and more enjoyment to be had in relationships. And with Venus leading the way, that's usually a wanting to, in this sense, make transformational changes, which is, I think, going to come a little bit later. But in this sense, just wanting to relate, wanting to form more relationships or stronger relationships, deeper relationships. And that's leading the way here on the 5th, and then Mercury goes into the 7th house, which is then being able to see and consciously orient yourself with that and think about that. I think relationships are going to be on the forefront of your mind. And then on the 15th, the Sun goes in there, and that's really when things spark. That's really when the fire and the passion and the energy really starts to come out in the relationship sector. So very nice there, especially with the Sun. We're going to have the new moon in this area a little bit later on in the month as well. Some of you might be forming new relationships or discovering a new essence in existing ones is usually the case with this also. Now, in terms of these fast-moving planets, once they go into that 7th house, which they'll all be in there the first half of the month, then they start to touch Pluto, Venus being the first. Venus also naturally rules 7th house. So there is going to be transformation and changes in relationships. So again, be willing. Release attachments and allow the changes to take place because they're for the better. Then Mercury is going to go over there, and that's a conscious change to your consciousness in terms of how you're seeing relationships, how they're unfolding in the conscious sense. And then the Sun's going to go over there towards the very end of the month, which is, I feel like a sense of liberation and a sense of freedom, you know. This is all happening in Sagittarius, and so this is going to open up a lot of things for everyone. And I think by the end of the month, once all this transformation takes place, it's really going to open up a lot of joy and happiness and seeing how the deeper side of building these strong relations is creating harmony, love, and joy in your life. But again, it's without knowing, without labeling. It's just a sense of feeling and going through the motions of it. That's just the nature of Pluto. So that is the more mundane aspect to this, you know, and for some of you in legal matters, you know, it could be related to that as well. Anything else 7th house related, service work, those sorts of things is in that domain. Also marriage, of course, being a relationship. Now, with the fast-moving planets going over, there's also this strong emphasis with Mars this month. Mars is transiting your 8th house. So you guys are, I think, putting in energy to change, wanting to change, making changes in your life, whether it's physical changes, emotional changes, whatever. And Mars is playing a very benefic role this month because he's going to be sextiling up to this square, sextiling up to Uranus to be exact. And so with Mars in that position, really channeling the energy into being the willing participant, like I've been saying, with these changes, it's going to unlock the freedom in your work, okay, or your career in some way. So it's like you're going through the motions, you're releasing the attachments, and then through that, there's a sense of freedom that can really come out, okay? But it's through action. It's stuff you have to do, okay? So when I say taking the active role, it literally means that for you guys this month with Mars in that 8th house. Take the active role in action, in motivation, and driving what you're actually doing. Make the changes in your life, restructure them, and through that, I think there's going to be a tremendous amount of freedom. Now, there's also a lot of healing taking place this month and a lot of spirituality actually and awareness coming from all of this. Chiron and Neptune are going to be sextiling up to these transformations in your 7th house. So be willing to go deep with relationships. Be willing to go deep with yourself and the relationship you have with yourself. Because at the end of the day, this is what all the 7th house activity is. It's all the relationship you have with yourself and merging the divine masculine with the divine feminine. And through that, having that sense of unity, which then mirrors through your external relationships. And so it's very spiritual, okay? But being the willing participant is going to create healing for you, going deeper and deeper and deeper. In an active sense, you're going to notice it's healing, it's healing, it's healing. And there's also creating a lot of presence and flow in your life as well. This is the type of month where it could be transformative, but it does not have to be. There's a lot of supportive elements here, and the supportive elements is being the willing participant, like I said, and also going with the flow. That's a big emphasis here with Neptune, not needing to know exactly how it's going to turn out, what all the details are, and just have that sense of presence. Lots of meditation would definitely benefit this as well, but just overall having that sense of flow in the everyday process of this, okay, in the mundane process of this. Now, let's talk about Jupiter this month. Jupiter's been transiting your guys' 7th house for almost a year now. And so there's been a lot of expansion in terms of what your guys' values are. So keep expanding those values, okay? The more you're discovering about what's important to you, the more it's assisting all of this, and you're also gaining a tremendous amount of self-worth as well in this process. But Jupiter is going to go retrograde on the 9th onward. So reflection is really the key here. Reflect on what your values are, what's important to you in life. And then through that, naturally, it'll, like I said, assist this. You're going to learn more about yourself for the next few months in terms of that. And then when Jupiter does go direct, you'll have that inner knowing, that inner sense. So, go within, see what's important, and then also realize the tremendous amount of abundance that you have in your life. See the abundance, because when we are focused on the abundance, that's what creates more abundance. It creates that positive connection to all that is and what we have and feeling it. And then naturally, whatever we feel, whatever we're consciously oriented to, that's more of what we manifest in our experience. Now, with all of this, there's a, North Node is playing a very important role. It's going to be squaring up to this square between Uranus and Pluto, so it's actually a T-square, but it's not exact. But I still feel like the North Node needs to be mentioned, and the North Node is in your guys' 4th house. So go within, that's on an emotional level. It's a sacral chakra kind of thing. Go into your body, literally. Feel into all this. And then that's really going to assist that. And I think, that conscious orientation, that's what the North Node really provides, is wherever we're consciously focused, that's what's assisting us. And so what's assisting you is the 4th house. Focus on the home, focus on family, focus on your past, focus on soul family, and focus on your inner temple, what's going on the inside. And that's going to be a very strong reinforcement, really strong support for you guys this month. Now, Saturn is transiting your 6th house. So recently, Saturn's gone in here, and so this is really putting in a lot of work in terms of your day-to-day activities. Maybe it's a craft you guys are developing or getting better at. Perhaps it's your health that you're starting to improve. Maybe it's your routine. But it's probably a mix of all those things. And that's a really strong grounding element to that. So with all this transformation, it's very important that we stay grounded in this process. And that's where the strong grounding element is. It's in that 6th house, on the day-to-day, on the routine, on the health. I think focusing on that, using that as a grounded element will certainly help things along. Now with all of this activity, we've also got Uranus going station direct on the 21st, and I feel like that's when things really shift. So by the end of the month, as these planets go over, what's going to happen is there's going to be a newfound sense of freedom with Uranus station direct. Probably be strongly related to your work, but I think it's also coming from relationships as well. So tap into that freedom, allow your true self to come down, connect to your higher self, and then naturally it's going to channel through your work. And you're going to notice that there's also, you want to create these positive changes, because when you create these positive changes, there's more freedom, you see. That's what this square is all about. Playing that active role, like I've been repeating. But there's going to be a sense of freedom that comes from that. I think the more you actively do these things, the more freedom you're going to feel. And that's where the freedom starts to shift, is around the 21st, when it becomes real and I think really embodied. And that's, of course, going to lead us into January. Which for you guys, into January, it's very, very freedom, very expansive in that sense. Now, on the 6th, at the very beginning of the month, let's talk about the moon. We have a full moon taking place in Taurus, which is your guys' 12th house. This is behind the scenes. So a lot of this stuff that's coming to you in terms of awareness is, for the first half of the month, is going to be coming through perhaps your dream space, through that presence, through that flow, through that meditation. So I highly recommend all of those meditative things, getting plenty of rest, getting plenty of sleep, first half of the month. That's going to create an awareness. Things are going to come to you, and it's that subconscious kind of knowing that is what Pluto really symbolizes and assists us with. And so perhaps it's not something that you can consciously orient towards, but it's an embodiment. It's something you're doing perhaps in the higher realms or something of that nature. So rest, the more you do that, the stronger it's going to support you. And I think the more you're going to be aware of what your values are, because it is happening in Taurus, and that's going to be playing a role. But for you, it's what's going on behind the scenes, what's going on in the psyche. And that's going to help you navigate a lot of these transformations that are taking place this month. Now later on in the month, we've got the new moon taking place in that 7th house. So like I said, there's going to be a sense of newness from all of this. And it's really a newness that you have with relating to others in general. Okay, and the more work, the more, like I said, active role you take into this, the more that's going to be the case. And really pay attention around the 21st of what you've learned from this whole process, because that's what this is all about. It's a learning experience, and it's meant to get you to form stronger bonds, form stronger connections, learn more about yourself through people. And the more you are aware of what those changes are, the more it's going to play a positive role for the years to come. All right, so let's draw a card and see where Spirit would like a little more emphasis for you guys this month. Okay, Cancer. Well, I think that's another indicator of that fourth house. But for you guys, Cancer specifically is your second house. And that's where Jupiter's been transiting. So there's, I feel a message here in terms of you guys really going within your feelings and seeing the expansiveness and all the abundance that's going on inside of your bodies. Okay, but that's where your values naturally come from as a Gemini. Your values come from within. They're emotional values. They're things that you have sentimental connections to. So I think maybe this is a message to really reflect on that. Reflect on what's important to you in life, in overall life, and how you can bring more of that into your current situation, into your current experience. And perhaps it is related to relationships, but it could be anything. But relationships, they just form a sort of means to that sometimes, because they're there to support us. And sometimes, with the second house, it's more about what's important to us, what we value, and focusing on that. And then naturally everything in the relationship works out because we have that sense of autonomy and understanding of what we want. And when we know what we want, it makes it easier on the relationships, on other people as well. So maybe that's a sign for that. But overall, Cancer is just an indicator to go within. Feel your feelings, trust your instincts, get in touch with your home, family, past, all that stuff I talked about with the North Node, and your roots in general, your emotional roots. Just want to let you guys know that I'm offering a special this month. It's a 45-minute recorded reading gift you can give to a friend or family member. And of course, you guys already get 50% off my 1-hour sessions, which you can also extend, and it's a great way to look at the year ahead. All right, well, I hope you guys have a great month, and I'll see you next time. Take care.